The blizzard hit with such ferocity that Beatrice Ellis never saw it coming, and by the time she realized her mistake in leaving town, the world had turned into a whirling mass of white that swallowed everything whole. She had been so certain the weather would hold long enough for her to reach the neighboring ranch, where she worked as a teacher for the rancher's children. The sky had been gray that morning in Florence, Arizona territory, but nothing suggested the violent storm that would sweep down from the mountains. It was February of 1884, and Beatrice had lived in the territory long enough to know better than to trust the winter sky. Yet she had been running late, worried about disappointing the children who waited for their lessons, and she had made the fatal decision to press onward. Now, as her horse whinnied in terror and reared back, Beatrice felt herself sliding from the saddle. The world tilted sideways, her gloved hands grasping at nothing but air and snow. She hit the ground hard, her head striking something solid beneath the white powder. Pain exploded behind her eyes, bright and sharp, and then everything went dark. The cold was the last thing she felt, seeping through her wool coat and dress, wrapping around her like death itself. Cole Frost had been tracking a lost calf when the storm rolled in, and he knew immediately that he needed to get back to his small ranch before conditions worsened. He had lived in Arizona territory for 8 years, ever since he was 20 years old, and he had learned to read the land and sky like other men read newspapers. This storm was different from the usual winter weather, carrying with it a deadly chill that reminded him of his childhood winters in Colorado. He turned his bay gelding, Duke, toward home, keeping his head down against the wind. The snow came at him sideways, stinging his face even beneath the brim of his hat, and the bandana he had pulled up over his nose and mouth. Duke was sure-footed, having carried Cole through worse situations than this, but even the reliable horse seemed nervous about the rapidly deteriorating conditions. That was when Cole saw the riderless horse. The animal was standing near a cluster of rocks, its reins hanging loose, its body covered in a thick layer of snow. Cole's heart sank. A riderless horse in a blizzard meant only one thing. Someone was out here, possibly injured, definitely in danger. "Hello," Cole shouted, his voice nearly lost in the howling wind. "Can anyone hear me?" There was no response except the wind's relentless roar. Cole dismounted, keeping Duke's reins firmly in hand as he approached the other horse. It was a smaller animal, a chestnut mare that looked well cared for, probably from one of the ranches closer to Florence. He grabbed the mare's reins, then began searching the immediate area, his eyes scanning the white landscape for any sign of the rider. He almost missed her. Beatrice was partially buried in snow, her dark coat barely visible against the white ground near the base of a large rock. Cole's stomach clenched as he rushed toward her, dropping to his knees beside her still form. He brushed the snow from her face, revealing pale skin and blue lips. She was a young woman, probably close to his own age of 28, with delicate features and dark hair that had come loose from its pins. Miss, can you hear me?" Cole pressed his fingers against her neck, searching for a pulse. It was there, faint but steady. Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by urgency. She was alive, but if he did not get her warm soon, she would not stay that way. Cole made a quick assessment of the situation. His ranch was about 2 miles west, but trying to make it there in this storm while carrying an unconscious woman would be dangerous for all of them. He needed shelter, and he needed it now. Then he remembered the old line shack. It was not much more than a crude cabin that had been built years ago by some long-gone rancher, but it was closer than his place, maybe half a mile to the north. Cole had stumbled upon it during his first year in the territory and had used it a few times when caught out in bad weather. It would have to do. Cole carefully lifted Beatrice into his arms. She was lighter than he expected and completely limp. The bump on her head worried him, but there was nothing he could do about it out here. He managed to get her onto Duke's saddle, holding her in place as he mounted behind her. He kept one arm wrapped firmly around her waist, the other hand holding both sets of reins as he guided Duke and the mare toward where he remembered the shack being. The journey felt endless. The wind tore at them with icy fingers, and Cole could feel Beatrice's body growing colder against his chest. He talked to Duke constantly, urging the horse forward, trusting the animal's instincts when his own sense of direction failed him in the white-out conditions. When the dark shape of the line shack finally emerged from the blizzard, Cole nearly wept with relief. He guided the horses around to the lee side of the small building where there was a crude lean-to that would provide some shelter for the animals. He dismounted carefully, keeping Beatrice supported, then managed to get her down from the saddle. The door to the shack was stuck, frozen, or warped, and Cole had to kick it twice before it gave way. Inside was dark and bitterly cold, but at least it blocked the wind. Cole laid Beatrice on the floor as gently as he could, then went back outside to tend to the horses. He removed their saddles and rubbed them down quickly with handfuls of snow, checking their legs for injuries. Both animals seemed fine, just cold and tired. He wished he had grain to give them, but there was nothing. They would have to make do with the shelter and whatever they could find once the storm passed. Back inside the shack, Cole pulled the door shut and wedged it closed with a piece of wood. The darkness was nearly complete, broken only by the faint light that filtered through cracks in the walls. Cole fumbled in his saddlebag until he found matches and a candle stub he always carried. The flickering light revealed a single room with a crude fireplace, a broken chair, and a platform that had once served as a bed. Cole set to work immediately. There was old wood stacked near the fireplace, left by previous occupants, and though it was dry and weathered, it would burn. He built a fire quickly, his cold fingers clumsy but experienced. Soon flames were crackling, casting dancing shadows on the walls and beginning to push back the deadly cold. Only then did Cole turn his full attention to Beatrice. She was still unconscious, her skin frighteningly pale, her lips tinged with blue. Cole knew about cold, knew how it could kill, knew that he needed to get her warm and dry as quickly as possible. Her clothes were soaked through with snow, and leaving her in them would be fatal. "I am sorry, miss," Cole said softly, even though she could not hear him. "But I have got to get you out of these wet things." Working as quickly and respectfully as he could, Cole removed Beatrice's coat, then her boots and stockings. Her dress was more complicated, with what seemed like 100 small buttons, but he managed. Beneath was a corset and chemise, both damp. Cole felt his face flush despite the cold as he worked, trying not to think about the impropriety of the situation, focusing only on the medical necessity. He wrapped her in both their blankets and his own dry coat, then positioned her close to the fire. He chafed her cold hands between his, trying to restore circulation, then did the same with her feet. They were like ice, and Cole worried about frostbite, but he could see no black discoloration yet. Cole hung her wet clothes near the fire to dry, then examined the bump on her head. There was a sizable lump above her left temple, and a small cut that had bled a little but seemed to have stopped. He cleaned it gently with water from his canteen, wishing he had proper medical supplies. All he could do now was wait and keep her warm. Cole fed the fire steadily, watching the woman's face for any sign of consciousness. The storm raged outside, wind screaming around the shack's corners, snow piling against the walls. He was glad he had found this place, glad he had found her when he did. Another hour out in that storm and she would have been beyond saving. As the hours passed, and the fire drove the worst of the cold from the small space, Cole found himself studying the woman more closely. Even in her current state, he could see that she was beautiful, with high cheekbones and a delicate nose. Her dark hair was spread around her head like a halo, and her lips, though still too pale, were full and well-shaped. There was something refined about her features that suggested she was not a common ranch hand or saloon girl. Perhaps a rancher's daughter or wife. The thought that she might be married sent an unexpected pang through Cole's chest, which he firmly ignored. It was near dark, though it was hard to tell with the storm, when Beatrice finally stirred. Cole was adding wood to the fire when he heard a soft moan. He turned quickly to see her eyelids fluttering. A moment later, her eyes opened, unfocused and confused. They were blue, he noticed, a deep blue like the sky on a clear winter morning. "Easy now," Cole said softly, moving to kneel beside her. "You are safe. You had a fall from your horse." Beatrice's eyes slowly focused on his face. Confusion gave way to alarm as she became aware of her surroundings and her state of undress beneath the blankets. "Where am I? Who are you?" Her voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper, but Cole could hear the fear in it. "My name is Cole Frost. I found you in the snow during the storm. You hit your head when you fell. I brought you to this old line shack to get you out of the weather. Your clothes were soaked. I had to remove them so you would not freeze. I promise you, I did not do anything improper. I just needed to get you warm and dry." Cole kept his voice calm and steady, hoping to reassure her. He could see the moment when memory started to return, when she remembered the storm and the fall. "My horse," she whispered. "Is Ginger all right?" "The chestnut mare. She is fine, sheltered with my horse just outside. Both animals are safe." Relief crossed Beatrice's face, followed quickly by embarrassment as she pulled the blankets more tightly around herself. "Thank you. I think you saved my life. I just did what anyone would do. How do you feel? You have got a fair bump on your head." "It hurts," she admitted, raising one hand to gingerly touch the injury. She winced. "But I am alive thanks to you." She paused, then added, "I am Beatrice Ellis. I teach at the Morrison Ranch about 10 miles from Florence." "Pleased to meet you, Miss Ellis, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Are you warm enough? Can I get you some water?" "Water would be wonderful, thank you." Cole helped her sit up, keeping the blankets wrapped around her, then offered her his canteen. She drank gratefully, wincing a little as the movement jarred her head. "The storm sounds terrible out there," she said, looking toward the door where wind howled through the cracks. "It is. We are stuck here until it passes. Could be hours, could be until morning." "I am sorry about the accommodations." "Better than being dead in the snow," Beatrice said with a small smile. Then her expression grew serious. "Mr. Frost, I understand you had to do what you did to save my life. I am not upset about my clothes. I am a practical woman, and I know you did what was necessary. I am just grateful you found me when you did." The directness of her words and the intelligence in her eyes surprised Cole in the best way. "I am glad I could help. Are you hungry? I have some dried beef and biscuits in my saddlebag." "I am, actually." Cole retrieved the food and they shared it, sitting near the fire while the storm continued to rage outside. As they ate, they talked, and Cole found himself increasingly drawn to this woman who faced her circumstances with such composure and grace. Beatrice told him about her work as a teacher, about how she had come to Arizona Territory 3 years ago from Pennsylvania after her parents died, seeking a fresh start. She spoke about the Morrison children she taught, about her small room in Florence, about the books she loved and the life she was building for herself. Cole, in turn, told her about his ranch, small but growing, where he raised horses and a few cattle. He talked about coming west to escape a life that had felt too constrained back in Colorado, about learning to love the harsh beauty of the territory, about his hopes to someday have a family of his own. "You have anyone special?" Beatrice asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I apologize, that was forward of me. No, it is all right. And no, there is no one special. I have been too busy building my ranch to think much about courting. The social opportunities around here are limited anyway. What about you?" "No," Beatrice said softly. "There was someone, back in Pennsylvania, but he did not want to wait for me while I went west to settle my aunt's estate. By the time I returned, he had married someone else. It was for the best, I think. He was not the sort to appreciate a woman with her own mind." "Then he was a fool," Cole said without thinking, then felt his face grow warm. "I mean, well, any man would be lucky to have a woman who speaks her mind." Beatrice smiled, and even in the flickering firelight, Cole could see the color rising in her cheeks. "That is kind of you to say." They fell into a comfortable silence, listening to the storm. Cole added more wood to the fire, conscious of the need to make their supply last, but also unwilling to let Beatrice get cold again. "Your clothes should be mostly dry now," he said after a while. "I will turn my back so you can dress." "Thank you." Cole turned to face the wall, listening to the rustle of fabric as Beatrice dressed. He found himself acutely aware of her presence, of the intimacy of their situation. They were strangers, yet circumstances had thrust them into a situation more private than most married couples experienced on their wedding night. It should have been awkward, but somehow it felt natural, as if they had known each other far longer than a few hours. "You can turn around now," Beatrice said. Cole turned to find her dressed in her mostly dry clothes, though her hair was still loose around her shoulders. Without the formal styling, she looked younger, more approachable, beautiful in a way that made his heart beat faster. "How is your head?" he asked. "It aches, but I will survive. I have had worse. When I was 12, I fell out of a tree and broke my arm. This is nothing compared to that." Cole smiled. "You climbed trees as a girl. Every chance I got, my mother despaired of me ever becoming a proper lady. I preferred books and adventures to needlework and tea parties. Nothing wrong with that. The world needs women with spirit." They talked through the night, taking turns feeding the fire, sharing stories and thoughts. Cole learned that Beatrice had a sharp wit and a deep love of learning, that she dreamed of one day opening her own school where children of all backgrounds could receive an education. Beatrice learned that Cole was more educated than most cowboys, having attended 2 years of college before his father's death forced him to leave school and find work. As the hours passed, Cole felt something growing between them, a connection that went beyond gratitude or circumstance. He found himself wanting to know everything about Beatrice, wanting to hear her thoughts on every subject, wanting to make her smile and laugh. And from the way she looked at him, the way her eyes lingered on his face when she thought he was not paying attention, he suspected she might be feeling something similar. By the time dawn broke, the storm had finally exhausted itself. Pale light filtered through the cracks in the walls, and the wind had died to occasional gusts. Cole opened the door to find snow piled nearly 2 feet high, covering the landscape in pristine white. The world looked transformed, beautiful and deadly. "We should be able to travel now," Cole said. "How are you feeling? Strong enough to ride?" "I think so. My head still hurts, but I can manage." "I will take you to my ranch first. It is closer and you can rest there properly before I take you back to Florence." "I do not want to impose." "You are not imposing. Besides, I want to make sure you are truly all right before you travel any further." They saddled the horses, both animals restless after their long confinement. The journey to Cole's ranch took over an hour through the deep snow, but finally they arrived at a modest but well-maintained spread with a sturdy house, a barn, and several corrals. "It is not much," Cole said as he helped Beatrice down from her horse, "but it is home." "It is wonderful," Beatrice said sincerely. "You have built something real here." Inside, the house was simple but clean, with a main room that served as kitchen and living area and a separate bedroom. Cole quickly built up the fire in the stove and put coffee on to boil. "You should rest," he said. "Take my bed, I will sleep out here." "I cannot take your bed." "You can and you will. You have had a serious injury and you need proper rest. Please do not argue with me on this." Beatrice smiled. "You are very commanding when you want to be, Mr. Frost." "Just concerned. Will you rest?" "If you insist." She did rest, sleeping most of the day while Cole tended to his animals and the various chores that had piled up during his absence. He checked on her frequently, relieved each time to see her sleeping peacefully. When she finally emerged in the late afternoon, she looked much better, with color back in her cheeks. "I made stew," Cole said. "Nothing fancy, but it is hot and filling." They ate together at his small table, and Cole realized how much he had missed having company, having someone to share a meal with. His life on the ranch was solitary by necessity, but he had not realized how lonely it had become until Beatrice brought warmth and life into his home. "I should get you back to Florence tomorrow," Cole said reluctantly. "People will be worried about you." "Yes, the Morrisons will be concerned, and Mrs. Baker, my landlady, will probably think I perished in the storm." "But Cole," she paused, and he noticed it was the first time she had used his given name. "I want to thank you properly for what you did. You risked your own life to save mine. That is not something I will ever forget." "I would do it again in a heartbeat," Cole said, and he meant it. They sat by the fire that evening, and Cole played a few songs on a battered guitar that had belonged to his father. Beatrice had a lovely singing voice, and they passed the time with music and conversation. When it was time to sleep, Beatrice again took the bedroom while Cole made himself comfortable by the fire. The next morning dawned clear and cold. After breakfast, they prepared for the journey to Florence. Cole saddled both horses and they set out, riding side by side through the snow-covered landscape. Florence was a small town, barely more than a main street lined with businesses and a scattering of houses. As they rode in, Cole could see people stopping to stare. News traveled fast in small towns, and everyone would know by evening that Beatrice Ellis had spent 2 nights alone with Cole Frost. They stopped first at Mrs. Baker's boarding house, where the older woman nearly collapsed with relief when she saw Beatrice. "Child, we thought you were dead. When the storm hit and you did not return, we feared the worst." Beatrice explained what had happened, carefully emphasizing that Cole had saved her life and behaved with complete propriety. Mrs. Baker listened with wide eyes, occasionally glancing at Cole with an expression he could not quite read. "Well, we must be grateful to Mr. Frost," she said finally. "Very grateful indeed." Cole took his leave, but not before Beatrice caught his hand. "Will I see you again?" she asked softly. "I will come to town next week," he promised. "If you would like." "I would like that very much." Cole rode home with a smile on his face and hope in his heart. The next week seemed to crawl by. Cole threw himself into his work, caring for his horses, repairing tack, fixing a section of fence that had been damaged in the storm. But no matter how busy he kept himself, his thoughts constantly returned to Beatrice. He remembered the way she looked with her hair loose around her shoulders, the sound of her laugh, the intelligence that sparkled in her blue eyes. When the day finally came to ride into town, Cole found himself nervous in a way he had not been since he was a boy. He cleaned up carefully, putting on his best shirt and pants, making sure his boots were polished and his hat brushed clean. He found Beatrice at the small schoolhouse where she sometimes gave lessons to children whose families lived too far from the Morrison ranch. She was standing outside, dismissing a group of children for the day, and she looked up with a bright smile when she saw him approaching. "Cole, I was hoping you would come today." "I said I would. How have you been? How is your head?" "Much better. The bump is nearly gone, and I have not had any headaches for days." "I am glad to hear it. I was wondering if you might like to take a walk with me, or perhaps have dinner at the hotel." "A walk would be lovely. Let me just lock up the schoolhouse." They walked through Florence together, and Cole found himself conscious of the looks they were receiving. Some were curious, some approving, and a few were decidedly disapproving. Small-town gossip was an unavoidable fact of life. "People are talking," Beatrice said quietly. "About us, about what happened." "Does that bother you?" "It should, I suppose. A proper lady would be mortified to have her reputation called into question. But I find I care more about the truth than I do about gossip. The truth is that you saved my life and nothing improper occurred." "Anyone who wants to think otherwise can simply remain ignorant," Cole laughed. "You are something, Miss Ellis. Please call me Beatrice. After everything we have been through together, I think we can dispense with formalities." "Then you must call me Cole." They walked to the edge of town, where the land opened up into desert and distant mountains. The air was cold but clear, and the late afternoon sun painted everything in shades of gold and orange. "I have been thinking about you constantly since we parted," Cole admitted. "I know we hardly know each other, but I feel as if we have known each other for years." "Is that strange?" "Not strange at all. I have been thinking about you too. About how kind you were, how you put my needs above your own comfort, how you treated me with respect even in such difficult circumstances. Those are not common qualities, Cole." They stopped walking and turned to face each other. Cole reached out and gently took Beatrice's hand. "I would like to court you properly if you will allow it. I know I am just a rancher without much to offer, but I have a good piece of land and prospects for the future. I can provide for a wife, given time." Beatrice's eyes widened. "Cole, we have known each other for barely a week." "I know, and I am not asking you to marry me today. I am asking if you will give me a chance to win your heart. Let me court you. Let me show you the kind of man I am, the kind of life we could build together. If after a time you decide I am not the man for you, I will accept that. But if you feel even a fraction of what I am feeling, then give us a chance." Beatrice was quiet for a long moment, and Cole felt his heart hammering in his chest. Then she smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I will let you court me." Cole felt joy rush through him, and without thinking, he pulled her into his arms. Beatrice came willingly, resting her head against his chest, and they stood that way for a long moment, holding each other as the sun set over the Arizona desert. The courtship that followed was unlike anything Cole had ever experienced. Every week, he would ride into Florence to see Beatrice. Sometimes they would walk together, sometimes they would have dinner at the hotel, and sometimes she would come out to his ranch, and they would spend the day together, talking and working side by side. Cole learned more about Beatrice with each visit. He learned that she had a fierce independence born from having to make her own way in the world after her parents died. He learned that she loved the desert landscape despite its harshness, that she found beauty in things others overlooked. He learned that she was brave and practical, but also tender-hearted and romantic. Beatrice learned that Cole was a man of integrity and kindness, that his word was his bond, that he treated everyone with respect regardless of their station. She learned that he was patient and gentle with his horses, thoughtful in his decisions, and quietly ambitious. She learned that beneath his quiet exterior was a passionate nature and a capacity for deep feeling. Spring came to the territory, bringing wildflowers and warmer days. Cole and Beatrice spent an afternoon riding through fields of poppies and lupines, the horses walking slowly while they talked about their dreams and hopes. "I never imagined I could be this happy," Beatrice confessed. "After my parents died, after things ended badly with my former suitor, I thought perhaps I was meant to be alone. But then you found me in that storm and everything changed." "You changed my life too," Cole said. "I was content before, but I was not truly happy. I was just existing, building my ranch without really thinking about why. Now I know why. I want to build something for us, for our future." They were sitting beneath a mesquite tree, their horses grazing nearby. Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. "I know it has only been a few months, but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Beatrice Ellis, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band with a small turquoise stone. It was not an expensive ring, but it was beautiful in its simplicity. Beatrice looked at the ring, then at Cole's face, and he could see tears shining in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you." Cole slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close and kissed her for the first time. It was a gentle kiss, full of promise and tenderness, and when they parted, both were smiling. "I love you," Cole said. "I think I have loved you since that first night in the line shack when you woke up and faced everything with such courage. I love you too. You are everything I never knew I was looking for. You make me want to build a life, not just survive one." They were married a month later in the small church in Florence. It was a simple ceremony with just a few friends and neighbors in attendance. Beatrice wore a new dress she had sewn herself, pale blue with white lace. Cole wore a new suit that felt stiff and uncomfortable, but he would have worn anything Beatrice asked him to. Mrs. Baker cried happy tears, and several of the Morrison children attended with their parents. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt, and when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed his bride to enthusiastic applause. They held a small reception at the hotel, with food and drink and dancing. Cole had never been much of a dancer, but he waltzed with his new wife, holding her close and not caring who saw how completely besotted he was. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Frost?" he asked as the evening wound down. "More than ready, Mr. Frost." They rode back to the ranch together in the gathering twilight, and Cole felt a sense of rightness settle over him. This was what he had been building toward all along, though he had not known it. Not just a ranch, but a home. Not just a life, but a life shared. That night, with Beatrice in his arms, Cole thanked whatever providence had led him to ride out into that storm, to find the woman who would become his whole world. Marriage to Beatrice was everything Cole had hoped and more. She brought life and warmth to his small ranch house, filling it with flowers and books and laughter. She proved to be an excellent partner, willing to help with chores, knowledgeable about animals, and full of ideas for improving the operation. "We should expand the horse breeding," she suggested one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "You have such a good eye for bloodlines, and there is a growing market for quality horses. We could make a real name for ourselves." Cole considered this. "It would take capital we do not have yet. Then we save. We plan, we build toward it. Rome was not built in a day, Cole." He smiled and pulled her close. "What did I do to deserve you? You saved my life in a blizzard. That seems like a fair exchange." Beatrice continued teaching at the Morrison Ranch, riding out 3 days a week to give lessons. Cole worried about her making the journey, especially after what had happened, but she was adamant. "I cannot live my life in fear," she said, "and I love teaching those children. They need me." Cole understood, though he always felt better when she returned safely each evening. Summer arrived, bringing intense heat that baked the land. Cole and Beatrice worked hard through those long days, caring for the horses and cattle, maintaining the property, planning for the future. In the evenings, they would sit together in the relative cool, reading aloud to each other or simply talking. It was in August that Beatrice told Cole she was expecting a baby. They were sitting at the kitchen table after dinner when she took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "We are going to have a child," she said softly. "I am about 3 months along, I think." Cole felt tears spring to his eyes. "A baby, we are going to have a baby." "Yes, are you happy?" "Happy, Beatrice. I am beyond happy. I am overwhelmed. A child, our child." He pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully, already protective of the life growing within her. When will the baby come?" "Early spring, I think. March or April. You will have to stop riding to the Morrison Ranch. It is too dangerous." "Not yet. I am perfectly healthy and I will be careful. But yes, eventually I will need to stop. Perhaps we can arrange for the children to come here for lessons, or I can teach in town." They made plans together, talking late into the night about names and futures and all the ways their lives were about to change. Cole felt a joy he had never experienced before, mixed with a healthy dose of fear. He wanted to be a good father, wanted to provide for his growing family, wanted to give his child all the opportunities he had not had. "We will be good parents," Beatrice assured him. "We will love this child and teach them and help them grow into a good person. That is what matters." As autumn arrived and Beatrice's pregnancy became more obvious, she did stop riding to the Morrison Ranch. Instead, she gave lessons in Florence twice a week to children whose parents could afford her modest fees. Cole drove her into town in their wagon and stayed close, unwilling to let her out of his sight for long. "You are hovering," she would tell him with affection. "I am pregnant, not made of glass. I know. I just want to make sure you are safe. You are carrying our child, Beatrice. You are the most precious thing in my world." The ranch continued to prosper. Cole had followed Beatrice's advice and focused on breeding quality horses, and word was spreading about the animals he was producing. He sold 3 young horses in October for good prices, and suddenly, their savings were growing. The dream of expanding the operation seemed more possible than ever. Winter returned to the territory, though it was mild compared to the storm that had brought them together. On the anniversary of the day Cole had found Beatrice in the snow, they took a quiet moment to reflect on how far they had come. "A year ago I thought I was going to die," Beatrice said, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "I was alone and cold and certain my life was ending. And now look at us. We have a home, we have each other, and soon we will have a child. Life is miraculous." "You are miraculous," Cole said, kissing her gently. "Every day with you is a gift." As winter gave way to early spring, Beatrice grew increasingly uncomfortable. Her belly was large and the baby kicked constantly, keeping both of them awake at night. "This child is going to be a handful," she said one night after a particularly vigorous series of kicks. "I can already tell." "Takes after the mother then," Cole teased, "or the father. You were the one who rode out into a blizzard, remember?" The baby decided to arrive on a warm night in late March. Beatrice woke Cole around midnight, gripping his hand tightly. "It is time," she said. "The baby is coming." Cole, despite having helped birth countless foals and calves, found himself panicking. "Now, right now, should I get the doctor? I should get the doctor." "Yes, you should get the doctor," Beatrice said calmly. "But Cole, breathe, everything is going to be fine." Cole rode into Florence faster than he had ever ridden, waking Dr. Matthews from his sleep and practically dragging him back to the ranch. By the time they arrived, Beatrice's labor had progressed significantly. Mrs. Baker, who had insisted on staying with them for the last week of Beatrice's pregnancy, was already helping her. "About time you got back," the older woman said. "This baby is eager to meet the world." Cole was banished from the bedroom, left to pace in the main room while he listened to the sounds of his wife laboring to bring their child into the world. It was the longest night of his life, every cry from the bedroom making him want to rush in, every moment of silence making him worry something was wrong. Dawn was breaking when he finally heard the thin, angry cry of a newborn baby. Cole stood frozen, hardly daring to breathe until Dr. Matthews opened the door with a wide smile. "Congratulations, Cole, you have a son." Cole nearly fell over with relief. "A son, and Beatrice, is she all right?" "She is tired but healthy. Go meet your boy." Cole entered the bedroom to find Beatrice propped up on pillows, exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in soft blankets. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Come meet our son," she said softly. Cole approached slowly, almost afraid, and looked down at the small red face peeking out from the blankets. The baby had dark hair and was making little mewing sounds, his tiny fists waving in the air. "He is perfect," Cole whispered. "Beatrice, you did it. You brought us a son." "We did it," she corrected. "We made this miracle together." They named him Thomas Cole Frost, after Cole's father. He was a healthy baby with strong lungs, and from the first day he had both his parents wrapped around his tiny fingers. Cole found himself overwhelmed by the depth of love he felt for this small person. He had thought he understood love when he married Beatrice, but this was different, fiercer somehow. He would die for his son without hesitation, would move mountains to keep him safe and happy. Beatrice proved to be a natural mother, patient and loving but also practical. She nursed Thomas with ease and seemed to instinctively know what he needed. Cole helped whenever he could, changing diapers and walking with the baby when he fussed, singing the same songs his own father had sung to him. As spring progressed and Thomas grew, the ranch continued to thrive. Cole sold more horses, and they were able to buy additional breeding stock. Beatrice, even while caring for an infant, managed the household accounts and kept everything organized. "We make a good team," she said one evening as they sat together watching Thomas sleep. "Better than I ever imagined." "The best team," Cole agreed. "I love our life, Beatrice. I love you and Thomas more than I thought it was possible to love anything." "I love you too. Thank you for finding me in that storm. Thank you for not dying before I got there." They smiled at each other, and Cole leaned over to kiss his wife gently. Their son slept peacefully between them, a perfect symbol of their love and their future. The years that followed were full and happy. Thomas grew from a baby into a toddler, then a small boy full of energy and curiosity. He loved the horses and followed Cole everywhere, wanting to help with every chore. Cole was patient, teaching his son about the land and the animals, passing on the knowledge he had gained. When Thomas was 3, Beatrice announced she was pregnant again. This time Cole was more prepared, though no less anxious. Their daughter, Catherine Beatrice Frost, was born on a clear October morning. She had her mother's blue eyes and her father's dark hair, and she was as different from Thomas as night from day. Where Thomas was energetic and bold, Catherine was calm and thoughtful. She would sit for hours watching the world around her with serious eyes, taking everything in. "She is going to be smart like her mother," Cole said, cradling his infant daughter. "And kind like her father," Beatrice added. With 2 children, the house was fuller and louder, but Cole would not have had it any other way. He expanded the house, adding 2 more bedrooms and a larger kitchen. The ranch continued to grow, and they were able to hire a hand to help with the work. Beatrice started teaching again when Catherine was a year old, holding lessons in their home for children from neighboring ranches. She loved being able to combine her two passions, teaching and motherhood, and watching her own children learn alongside others. Thomas proved to be a natural horseman, able to gentle even the most skittish colt. By the time he was 10, he was helping Cole with the breeding program, showing an eye for quality that matched his father's. Catherine loved books and learning, devouring every volume Beatrice could get for her, and showing a talent for drawing that amazed them both. One evening when Thomas was 12 and Catherine 9, the family sat on the porch together watching the sunset. Thomas was whittling a piece of wood, working on a horse figurine. Catherine was sketching in her notebook. Beatrice sat in her rocking chair with her needlework, and Cole stood leaning against the porch rail. "Father," Thomas said without looking up from his carving, "when you met Mother, did you know right away you were going to marry her?" Cole glanced at Beatrice, who smiled. "Well, son, I knew pretty quickly that she was special. I think I fell in love with her that first night, even though she was unconscious for most of it." "That is not very romantic," Catherine observed. "She was unconscious." "It was plenty romantic," Beatrice interjected. "Your father saved my life in a blizzard. He could have died himself, but he stopped to help me. That is about as romantic as it gets." "And then you fell in love," Catherine said dreamily. "Just like in the books." "Not quite like in the books," Cole said. "Real life is better than books. It is messier and harder, but also more rewarding. Your mother and I have built this life together, through good times and difficult ones. That is what real love is." "I want a love like that someday," Thomas said. "Something real and lasting." "You will find it," Beatrice assured him. "When you are ready, and with the right person, you will know." As the children grew older, they began to make their own paths. Thomas remained devoted to the ranch, working alongside Cole and showing every intention of taking over the operation someday. Catherine's artistic talent developed further, and at 16 she was offered a scholarship to study art in San Francisco. It was a difficult decision, but Cole and Beatrice knew they had to let her follow her dreams. "I will miss you every day," Beatrice told her daughter as they prepared for her departure. "But I am so proud of you. You have a gift, Catherine, and you should share it with the world." "I will come home for visits," Catherine promised, "and I will write every week." She was true to her word, sending long letters describing her studies and the city, filling page after page with sketches and observations. Cole read every letter multiple times, missing his daughter but proud of the young woman she was becoming. Thomas courted and married a rancher's daughter named Anna when he was 22. She was a practical, hard-working woman who fit seamlessly into the family. Within a year, they gave Cole and Beatrice their first grandchild, a boy named after Cole. Holding his grandson for the first time, Cole felt the circle of life complete itself. He thought about the young man he had been, riding through a blizzard with no thought but to save a life. He thought about the scared but brave woman he had found, and how she had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Beatrice asked, watching him with the baby. "About how one decision, one moment changed everything. If I had turned back in that storm, if I had missed seeing your horse, our whole lives would be different. But you did not turn back. You never do. That is who you are, Cole. You are the man who rides into storms to help others." They sat together in the room that had once been their bedroom and was now Thomas and Anna's, watching the young family. Cole reached for Beatrice's hand, still wearing the turquoise ring he had given her so many years ago. "No regrets?" he asked. "Not a single one," she said. "You are my adventure, Cole Frost. You always have been." Catherine returned home after 5 years in San Francisco, bringing with her a portfolio of stunning artwork and a new husband, a fellow artist named Daniel. They settled in Florence, where Catherine opened a small gallery and taught art lessons. She and Daniel had 2 children, girls who showed early signs of inheriting their mother's talent. As Cole and Beatrice grew older, their ranch became a gathering place for their growing family. Sunday dinners were loud affairs with children and grandchildren filling the house, the sound of laughter and conversation echoing off the walls. Thomas took over more of the ranch operations, managing the business with skill while still respecting his father's wisdom and experience. Anna proved to be an excellent partner, handling the books and managing the household with calm efficiency. They had 4 children total, giving Cole and Beatrice a house full of grandchildren to spoil. Catherine's gallery became successful, showcasing not just her own work, but that of other artists from the territory. She never forgot her parents' support, often telling her own children the story of how their grandparents met, how love can be found in the most unexpected circumstances. On their 30th wedding anniversary, Cole and Beatrice took a ride out to where the old line shack had stood. The structure had collapsed years ago, but they could still find the spot, marked by a distinctive rock formation. 30 years, Beatrice said, standing in Cole's embrace. It feels like yesterday and like a lifetime ago all at once. Best 30 years of my life, Cole said. Every single day with you has been a gift. They were in their 50s now, with silver threading through their hair and lines on their faces earned through years of hard work and laughter. But when Cole looked at Beatrice, he still saw the beautiful woman he had found in the snow, brave and intelligent and kind. "You remember what you said to me that first night?" Beatrice asked. "When I woke up in the shack, I said you were safe. You said I was safe and I believed you. I have felt safe with you every day since. That is a rare gift, Cole." They stood together in the place where their story had truly begun, where a chance encounter in a storm had led to a lifetime of love. The sun was setting over the Arizona desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, and Cole felt a profound sense of gratitude for the life they had built. As the years continued to pass, Cole and Beatrice settled into a comfortable rhythm. They spent their days helping with the ranch when needed, spoiling grandchildren, and simply enjoying each other's company. They would sit on the porch in the evenings, holding hands and watching the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. Thomas and Anna expanded the ranch further, adding cattle to the horse operation and buying adjacent land as it became available. The Frost Ranch became known throughout the territory for quality livestock and fair dealing. It was everything Cole had dreamed of when he first came west, and more. Catherine's artistic career flourished. Her paintings of desert landscapes and ranch life were sought after by collectors as far away as New York. She never forgot where she came from, though, often bringing her children to stay at the ranch for long visits, letting them experience the life their mother had known growing up. The grandchildren adored Cole and Beatrice. Cole taught them to ride and rope, passing on the skills he had learned over a lifetime of ranch work. Beatrice taught them to read and think, filling their minds with stories and knowledge. But more than any specific skill, they taught their grandchildren about love and commitment, about building a life with someone through good times and bad. "How do you stay so in love after all these years?" Thomas's oldest daughter asked one day when she was 16. "You and Grandma still act like newlyweds." Cole smiled. "We remember what brought us together and we choose each other every day. Love is not just a feeling, sweetheart. It is a decision you make over and over again. Your grandmother makes that easy, though. She is still the most remarkable woman I have ever known." When Cole turned 65, he officially turned over the ranch operations to Thomas, though he remained active and involved. He had earned his rest, but he was not ready to stop working entirely. The ranch was in his blood, and he could not imagine a day without spending time with the horses. Beatrice, at 63, finally stopped teaching, though she still read voraciously and served on the board of the new school in Florence. Her greatest joy was her family, though, and she spent her time organizing gatherings and making sure everyone stayed connected. One spring evening, sitting on their porch as they had done thousands of times before, Beatrice turned to Cole with a soft smile. "You know what day it is?" she asked. Cole thought for a moment, then smiled back. 40 years since I found you in the snow. 40 years since you saved my life and changed it forever." "We changed each other's lives," Cole said. "I was just existing before you, Beatrice. You taught me how to truly live. And you gave me a home and a family and a love I never thought possible. I think we both won." Cole Frost. They sat together as the sun set, two people who had built a beautiful life from a chance encounter in a storm. Around them, their ranch hummed with activity as their family went about the evening chores. In the distance, they could hear the laughter of grandchildren playing. "If you could go back," Cole asked, "knowing everything that would happen, would you still take that ride in the storm?" Beatrice did not hesitate. "Every single time, because it led me to you." The years were kind to Cole and Beatrice. They remained active and engaged well into their 70s, watching as their grandchildren grew up and started families of their own. Thomas and Anna became grandparents themselves, and Cole found himself a great-grandfather, a role he embraced with joy. The ranch continued to thrive under Thomas's management, expanding and adapting to changing times. Modern innovations came to the territory, but the fundamental work of raising good horses remained the same. The Frost name was respected throughout Arizona, associated with integrity and quality. Catherine's art achieved recognition beyond the territory. Her paintings hung in galleries in major cities, and she was commissioned to create works for wealthy patrons. Yet she never forgot her roots, always coming home to visit, always making time for family. As Cole and Beatrice entered their 80s, they slowed down considerably, but their love never diminished. They still held hands when they walked, still stole kisses when they thought no one was looking, still found joy in each other's company after more than 50 years of marriage. "I am the luckiest man who ever lived," Cole would often say. "I am the luckiest woman," Beatrice would respond. Their family had grown large, with dozens of grandchildren and great-grandchildren bearing the Frost name. The ranch had become a legacy, something that would continue long after they were gone. But more than the land or the livestock, Cole and Beatrice's true legacy was the example they had set of what love could be. On a warm September evening, with the whole family gathered for a celebration of their 55th wedding anniversary, Cole stood to make a speech. His voice was not as strong as it once was, and he leaned heavily on his cane, but his eyes were bright as he looked around at all the faces before him. 55 years ago, I married the most incredible woman I have ever known. It was the best decision I ever made, though to be honest, the decision was made for me the moment I found her in that snowstorm. I knew even then that she was going to change my life. What I did not know was how much. Beatrice has given me everything. She gave me love and partnership and children and grandchildren, and a life beyond my wildest dreams. She made me better than I ever would have been without her. So today, on this anniversary, I want to thank her for 55 years of putting up with me, and to promise her that I will love her for whatever time we have left. You are my heart, Beatrice Frost. You always have been. There was not a dry eye in the room when he finished. Beatrice stood, shakily but with determination, and kissed her husband to thunderous applause from their family. "And you are mine," she said softly, "always and forever." As the celebration continued around them, Cole and Beatrice slipped outside to the porch where they had spent so many evenings. They sat in their rocking chairs, holding hands, watching the stars come out over the desert they both loved. "Not a bad life," Cole said. "The very best life," Beatrice corrected. "I would not change a single moment." They sat in comfortable silence. Two people who had spent so long together, they did not always need words. Their story had started in a blizzard, with a stranger's kindness and a leap of faith. It had grown into something beautiful and enduring, a love that had weathered every storm and emerged stronger each time. Around them, the ranch settled into evening quiet. Inside the house, their family laughed and talked, generations connected by the love that Cole and Beatrice had built. The horses dozed in their corrals, the cattle grazed peacefully, and the land stretched out toward the horizon in all its harsh, beautiful glory. Cole looked at his wife, at the woman who had been his partner through everything, and felt his heart swell with gratitude. He had ridden into a storm all those years ago, never imagining what he would find. He had saved a life and in doing so had saved his own. "I love you," he said, as he had said countless times before. "I love you too," Beatrice replied, as she always did. And there, on the porch of the ranch they had built together, under the vast Arizona sky, Cole Frost and Beatrice Ellis Frost held hands and watched the stars come out, still as much in love as they had been the day they met. Their story had been written over more than half a century, filled with joy and challenges, triumphs and sorrows, but through it all, their love had remained constant. As the night deepened and the temperature dropped, they finally went inside together, their steps slow but steady, supporting each other as they always had. Behind them, the desert stretched out endless and eternal, a silent witness to a love story that had begun in snow and cold and had bloomed into something warm and lasting. The ranch lights glowed in the darkness, a beacon of home and family and all the things that truly mattered. And inside, Cole and Beatrice Frost settled in for the night, grateful for another day together, ready to face whatever tomorrow might bring as long as they could face it together. Their love story, born from a winter storm and the courage of a cowboy who refused to ride past someone in need, had become the foundation for generations of family. It was a testament to the power of kindness, the strength of commitment, and the miracle of finding the right person at the right time, even in the most unexpected circumstances. As they drifted off to sleep that night, Cole's arm around Beatrice and her head resting on his shoulder as it had for 55 years, they both knew that they had lived the very best kind of life. A life full of love, purpose, and the deep satisfaction that comes from building something meaningful with the person you love most in the world. The winter storm that had brought them together was long forgotten by everyone else, just another storm in the history of Arizona territory. But for Cole and Beatrice, it would always be the most important storm of their lives, the moment when everything changed, when two people who were meant to be together finally found each other. And that was exactly how their story was meant to be. A love story written in snow and sealed with a lifetime of devotion, passed down through the generations as an example of what true love looks like when it is nurtured and cherished and allowed to grow strong. The cowboy who had warmed a frozen woman in a blizzard had indeed won her heart, and together they had built a legacy that would last long after they were gone, a legacy of love and family, and the enduring power of two hearts beating as one.